Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gibson. How are you? I am the CEO of Norm Therapy Incorporated. I'm also the creator of Norm Therapy, the service. As well, I wear a hat as CEO of our nonprofit, Abuse Refuge Org, affectionately known as ERA. Excuse me. At Norm Therapy, our mission is to help abuse victims retrieve information from their past or present that they otherwise have been conditioned to believe otherwise. And we tackle this task by using some techniques that I've developed over the years, from our raking technique to many others, where we probe individuals who have been abused and we help them to defend the things in life that they should be defending instead of the things that they shouldn't. Most often, abuse happens because people have been conditioned to endure the abuse. And normally it's through intimidation, fear of loss, through lies, deceit. For a variety of reasons, people are abused. One of our guests today, of course, is Louisa Kibulo out of Kenya. She's an amazing lady. She's worked with me on many different patients within Norm Therapy, and she handles her own very well in an interview process. Plus, she's a mother of, I think, 3 or 4. I'm not sure. I should know this stuff. It probably will come to my mind. And she seemed to have a fantastic family, husband, and parents. But she's also something else. She's an old spirit with a great deal of information, a great deal of knowledge. And I want to introduce her to the world because she's so a matter-of-factly together. Very few people project the type of security and can-do-it spirit that Louisa projects every day and in everything. And oftentimes, we'll wait to the end of our session or the end of our subject to turn to Louisa and ask her, so what do you think? That's how well regarded she is around the company. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring Louisa Kibulo from Kenya. I'd like her to tell you a little bit about herself. Louisa, please come in.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, Louisa. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the great introduction.
Well, I can't help it. I got great taste. I deserve this. So there you go.
Right.
So tell me, I'm dying to hear, how is your husband doing? I always ask you about him, and he always seems to be the character of love of your life. So tell us, how did that happen?
We met in campus. Just
I'm sorry?
sorry, I was just clearing my throat.
Yeah, we get nervous. I get nervous. I go, sounds
Yeah,
terrible, doesn't it? When I do it, but go ahead.
right. So we met in campus, and that was in 2008. So we've known each other since. We were doing some courses together. He's an industrial chemist. So, and I did some chemistry courses as well. So we shared a few classes together, and that's how we came to meet. And there was a course I was doing very badly, and he happened to be the star student.
Look at
Organic
my.
chemistry. It was organic chemistry too.
Uh-huh.
And it was very challenging, and he is a brilliant chemist. So he tutored me actually for that
I go,
for
"Nah,
that.
I think I'll keep this guy. Hold on. I think I'll keep him.
Yeah, and I did well actually, thanks to his assistance, and that's how we met.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a good story. And then I think you have 2 kids. I remember now. You have 2 children.
Yeah.
Tell me something.
Mhm.
Uh, when you when you first got married, did you see yourself as you right now?
Wow. No, I was a different person. Um, it's been a process of growth. It's a process of growth, and I say that two things, marriage and children is like you're in a school of self-improvement all the time. If you're not very patient, you're constantly being put in situations where you have to learn to be patient or forgiving or something like that. So no, when we got married, we are not the same people, but we've grown together. And seeing as we were young, I think our foundation was friendship. We are very good friends.
Well,
Very good friends. Yeah. So that I think surpasses quite a lot of, even if you have some strife, but this is literally a friend. So it
sometimes
helps.
people love each other so much they forget to be friends.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that we share a name also. So people sometimes kind of, okay, not share, but
Wait a minute. What do you mean? What is your husband's name again?
Luis.
And you're Louisa.
Yeah.
Louis, I would have played with you a long time ago on this had I put it together. But so
Yeah.
cool. So you and Luis and Louisa.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
But I didn't know that until almost a month into dating. He didn't tell me because he uses the name Alex as well. So that is what he
Like
introduced himself
like
to
his
me as.
middle name. Hey, I'm
Yes,
Alex. And you say, I'm
yes,
Louisa. He went, oh my God,
exactly.
really?
Yeah.
That's special. I really like that. But I like that. I don't think I've ever known a couple like that where
It's
they
weird.
had.
I assure you it's weird. I usually don't really call him that. And but
Yeah.
people sometimes they'll send me his records or they'll call and use my name and it's a bit of a mix up, but it's fun anyway.
What's the best part about your husband? What in your without ingratiating because you're not that kind of person, I know.
I
But tell me, what's the best part about your husband? Him being your husband.
um the best part is I like to have somebody to be able to talk to and hold let me call them debates with, because I've found that it's not everybody that you can sit with and ask them, so what do you think about this? And then they act like an intellectual conversation.
Hmm.
We are very good at that. We disagree on very, very many things, but at the end of the day, we agree to disagree.
Which is
And
dangerous, but
yeah,
I understand. It's very dangerous.
yeah. Um, and also the fact that he's a very stable feature in my life, and really, even in his parents' life, his family, he's generally a very reliable person. Like, if
You
he's
can
supposed
depend
to,
on you can lean back and say, you know what, this is
exactly.
my environment, and I can, I used to tell people that I dated, I would always say things like, I should be able to predict what you do next or what you're
Yes.
gonna say. That's how well I need to know you. And most people don't like being predicted, and they should welcome it. I believe, especially with your mate, you should want to be predictable to them, so they're not surprised by your answer, or you're not surprised by theirs to certain circumstances in which you find yourself. I was thinking, and I'm gonna go into something else if I could. Go ahead. What did you want to say? Did you want to just share something?
I was going to say that we are both very predictable. I mean, they're very, very predictable. Maybe boring to some people. I know my siblings think it's boring. They're like, oh no, those two are probably at home. They cannot make it to this party at 9 p.m. And, you know, so uh, it is good to be able to know, what somebody can do and will do in particular situations. It's comforting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The level of predictability I'm speaking on surpasses and transcends that of the relationship, so to
Hmm.
speak. As you know, we have our understanding of love at Norm Therapy. Love is that exaltation of the humiliated self, where you have to surrender to love or bow down to it. And you have to have no compromise of love and no transaction of love. But the relationship is different. That's where you relate. That's where you have your debates and you have your criticisms and you have all of the different likes and dislikes. That's totally separate from love. And a lot of people confuse, and that's why I want to bring up your marriage, because you're a very pragmatic person about how you speak of yourself and your family, especially your husband. I mean, you're very like, you're almost like walking around a badge saying, I made a good decision. And it's like right here and it's got a star on it. And you're like, yeah, I made a good decision. Many women out there want to be able to do that. I think they're oftentimes looking for men so much that they never find them because they overlook them, because they're looking so much instead of just being themselves and he will always 100% show up. Whoever he is, he will show up. But because their criteria is so off the chart, I remember seeing a video recently where this lady who was obviously not in good shape and not very attractive, the MC asked her, "So what do you look for in a man?" And here was a lady who was not at all in good shape on any level. And matter of fact, she looked like she was in bad shape. It was like, wow, that's touch and go. And her answer was, "I just love for my man to be in shape." You get that. You see where people lose perspective because they want something way out of what they, not they deserve, but what they orient themselves to have. They want something way out of that. And that causes a lot of confusion, not only within themselves, they start to gaslight themselves, but they gaslight others as well. And they never really find what they want as a result. How do you feel about that when people are dating and meeting? What do you think are the biggest attractors for people when they mate? What are they looking? What are people normally looking for?
I think people put a lot of emphasis on the physical, which is important. Yes, it is important. I mean, you cannot be with somebody who looks highly unattractive to you. But what is more important is how well do you get along? What are this person's values in comparison to yours? Are there any cultural differences that may be difficult to, to surmount or that you may not be willing to work on? So, I mean, do you share similar interests? And then also not demanding for something that you yourself are not able to offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Now you and I are speaking the same language on this one. I love it. I hate it
Yeah,
when somebody comes to the table and they demand more out of the other person than they're willing to give. I think
right.
that's such an imbalance and it causes, you can't repair that. Only the person who's wanting more can repair. You, the wife, cannot repair your husband. Only he can repair himself. Or vice
Exactly.
versa. What about the family dynamic? How well does that work in your relationship? Because I think that plays a huge part in relationships, the family dynamic. And I think that's an age thing. Like when you're really young, it's very important. When you get like, you get to know yourself in middle age, you're like, well, okay, I'm going to get along and everything was fine. And I enjoy them. They're great people. But then when you get older, you go, I don't care. So it depends on where you are at that stage in your life. But you want to be respectful, of course, all the time and consider everyone on any level of age and maturity. What do you think about the family dynamic? How important is that merging two families through marriage?
It's very important, and I guess it also depends on culture that comes in because I know maybe in Africa it's very important. For example, if you're getting married, you do need to not necessarily, of course, mothers-in-laws and fathers-in-law sometimes can be a challenge, but it's important that you understand what is important to your partner.
Yes, very
Yes,
true.
that is the most important thing. So if his parents are important to him, his siblings are important to him, then you as his partner cannot come and be disrespectful, even though they may be acting not very nice to you or they may be a bit cold, but out of consideration for your partner because you do not want
To build a
to,
wall.
yeah. So you just understand where everything is on his level and vice versa as well. When he visits maybe your people, like, okay, so this is who is important to me. These are my parents. So I think the respect that Michael you keep talking about comes into play a lot here. So
Respect
yeah,
is everything.
exactly. It just seems to be the underlining keyword in literally all of life.
I talk about you all the time to people all over the world. And because you're so pragmatic, um, you once had me cracking up. Like, may I share about what you said about your husband one
Yeah,
day? Was this is funny?
yeah.
Um, so Louisa, I, and a few other norm therapists are in a meeting one day. And were we in a session? I forget. Was it a pre-session or in a meeting? I forget what it was.
It was one of our class. class sessions, module sessions.
Right. One of our module sessions of training. That's what it was when you were going through norm therapy course.
Right.
And I heard you say something, and to this day, I roll over and hold my stomach laughing when I say it out loud. But maybe you should tell the audience what happened. Do you remember what happened? Said
Well,
you.
yeah, I remember. So my husband is usually on some diet. He's working on keeping fit, but he likes to take a lot of junk food, unfortunately. So what happens is that we have a strict, what's allowed in the house, what's not allowed in the house. And this particular time, he went out and he went and bought a lot of junk food and he hid it in the car. And that's when he came into the house, I asked him, "So where are you from?" He said he was just driving around. And because you know your partner, you're like, okay, did you go into the supermarket? And he goes, no. And he has all these hallmarks of, we've just done our human lie detector course.
Oh yeah, let
And
me preface that real quick. I forgot that. Oh my God. We have this course called the Human Lie Detector where we teach people how to detect lies and how to detect deception. And in the detection deception era or part of the course we were in, we had just completed that, and everybody was using their technique. And so I guess your husband didn't know you were armed with this new information of what to look out for, the body language, the twitching of the eyes, the touching of the face, and all of those different things. And so what happened? Well, after, you're now armed with this new training.
yes, and it was interesting because I had never noticed this before. Because it was after this, after we did this module, is when I was really able to pick that up in people. So he comes in and he says, uh, he was just driving around the neighborhood, and I asked him, "I hope you did not go into a supermarket." And he's looking down. He kind of, his hand passed over his mouth, and he said, "No, I've not done anything like that." And I looked at him and I said, "You're lying. Oh my God, you're actually lying." And he goes, "No, no, no, I'm not lying to you. Why would I lie to you?" And I said, "No, you're lying. You're lying." And I told him, actually told him, just go bring whatever it is that you went in and bought because, and I told him, now my classes, I'm being taught by a guy from the special forces. So any,
Hope he
yeah,
doesn't hate my guts by now.
I told him, so that is my trainer. So you're not going to keep lying and you know. It was insignificant, but it was very important that I was able to catch that
But
because
then it works, of course. You got to
exactly.
see it in real life on your own. That's one of the things I like about norm therapy in our training is we're very comprehensive, I think. And just listening to you speak, you're a highly intelligent person, you're a very pragmatic, down-to-earth, mature individual. And these are the type of people we attract, like you. That's why I'm happy to be here to showcase you. I mean, people don't know right out that we have medical doctors, like therapists, psychologists, all kinds of people from every walk of life within their own professions. And they come to us to become norm therapists. So we must be doing something right, I think. Tell us who you were before you became a norm therapist and who you are now. Can you kind of map that out for people for us?
All right. Before I became a norm therapist, I still am a scientist. Uh,
Of course. Yay.
yes, yes, I still am a scientist. So I studied zoology and I minored in biochemistry and also did a bit of in my country we don't have too many unless you proceed. So I did not undertake a master's or anything like that in what I did. But we went into business for a number of years. We did business, me and my husband, because he's an industrial chemist.
Mhm.
So we did go into manufacturing for a little bit. Okay, not
Okay.
a little bit, quite a number
A
of
lot.
years.
Probably a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we
You're
did
very
that for
modest. Go ahead.
we did that for some time. although we did stop because of the business conditions in my country
Mhm.
are not very. I hope they're listening, the people who do policies.
I, I'll
Yeah,
tell you about that later. I saw a video on a Kenyan diplomat one day. It's amazing. But go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So they do need to work on making things a bit easier for young entrepreneurs. So that was our journey with that. But I also, because of my academic background, I got into technical writing, research writing. So I do that a lot till date, and learned many other skills along the way as well, the marketing, business, and you know, yes,
Through
along.
having to on the job training, so to speak.
Yes, yes, yes.
Best way to
Um,
learn.
sorry, yes,
That's the best way to learn.
right, yeah. Along the way, you see, I'm doing all this, and I was a young mother. I had my son when I was very young, which I think really did shape a lot of uh, who I am. Because then, when you're in school and you have a small baby, and you cannot really do everything, just becomes about how do I ensure that my child is okay? How do we do this? And. So that
Mhm.
shaped that really did shape me a lot. And then I had my daughter a few years later. So then I'm doing all that whilst being a mother and a wife
Wow. And an entrepreneur.
and an entrepreneur. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and now as a norm therapist, how do you see life?
Wow. My life perception has really changed. I would have to say that because I came into Aero and norm therapy as a result of some research work I was doing. And before then, I was mainly involved in business. I was not really involved in social issues. Um, so when I got introduced to abuse as a social issue, it really spoke to me because I have seen it in my community. I have seen it around me. It's definitely a global issue, and it's I would say it's really opened a whole new world for me. When we were going through our classes, I was very involved. It was very interesting. And to me, this is something that I would really love to do. When you're asked what would you like to do your job for the rest of your life, I really would not mind uh, working with victims of abuse and helping them up until, my last days. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. That warms my heart and spirit. You're a consummate person. I mean, you're very complete in a lot of ways. And a lot of young women out there who are juggling marriage, their profession, kids, school, they're trying to vision forward their lives. It's kind of difficult. You don't make it seem easy, but you make it seem doable. And I think that's what most people need to know, especially women, that it is doable. Because sometimes you see that man, and I'm sometimes that man um, who's just basically walking public like we've got everything together. Everything is, I got it. I'm a strong guy. You can emulate me. I'll tutor you. I'll mentor you. I'll be your best buddy. I'll champion your causes. But people don't know that sometimes I'm a step away from disaster, or I'm a step away from, some other thing in my life that's pulling me that I have no control over. And so we oftentimes have to create a version of ourselves for the public and create a version of ourselves for the people who we most care about around us. How do you juggle between your public persona and your private persona with your family?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Um, Support, public persona is who you are. Let's say, for example, me. My public persona is me, my children, husband, you work, and a lot of times it's you have to compartmentalize a lot. Um, if you're
Mhm.
dealing with something, maybe some disagreement or some argument or something like that, then you have to be able to I'm trying to find the proper word.
No, you
Sometimes
have to
what
be the word I think you're looking for, I hope, is discern. You have to be
yes,
able to discern.
yes,
And that only comes from good listening. I'm listening to you. I discern. Most people can't do that in a relationship. They don't know how to listen to one another. And I would think that your skill sets between your husband and you, especially he helps you get into chemistry. That's got to be a
mhm,
guy who listens a lot. I think you guys have excellent listening and verbal communication skills, even in during debates. Somebody
yeah,
has to stop talking so the other person can listen, and the other person got to stop listening so they can talk. So you can't do them both at the same time. So you
right,
have to, stop listening completely and talk. That's what people don't get. Then you have to stop talking completely to listen. And that when you get both sides of the equation made. But if you're just talking to be talking to get your point heard, normally you fail at that communication, quite normally.
exactly. And you have to be able to discern and tell. So maybe there is an outburst or you're discussing something. Is there an underlying issue? Because
Absolutely.
sometimes,
Exactly.
yes, yes. So what has brought this about? Maybe it's not just that.
What's
I
the
don't know.
nuance? What's
Exactly.
going on? Exactly. You know
Hmm.
how many people who are very smart don't know what you just said, and that proves there's a thing, there's a big difference between being intelligent and being wise. They don't always correlate because you have to look for the underlying issues or the mitigating circumstances or the extenuating circumstances and just about everything when you're dealing with the human spirit, especially people you care about. And even when you don't care about them, you oftentimes have to think of those same things in order to not have a miscarriage of conversation or judgment of that person. I think
Exactly.
that's important as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about your mom? Because you reference her a lot around the company. Tell us about your powerful, amazing mom.
Okay. My mom and my dad as well. I
And
would
dad,
say,
forgive me for breathing. I'll
yeah,
hold
they
my
both have. My mom is a huge support system for me. Ever since when I had my son, she helped me a lot. She took care of him when I had to go to school and juggle everything. So, and she was very supportive, very encouraging. She's also that for so many people. In fact, so many of our female relatives.
caregiver.
Yes, yes. It can become a bit of a tough, but she's very strong. She does not. It's the rest of us who feel, oh, are you sure this is too much or what? But
It's
she's a
not a
source of
people pleasing thing. It's more of I am a
no,
good
no,
person. I like doing that.
no. She is absolutely no. You cannot get her to do anything she doesn't want to do at all. You really cannot. And she cannot. And you do not. She does not argue with anybody. She does not. You know.
Rest of her
Uh,
mind, and that's it.
yeah, exactly.
I love this lady already. There you go.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
she's an excellent support system for all of us, and she's also a good model for me in terms of marriage and being a mother. She's very giving as a mother. I remember one time I was calling her very frantically early in the morning, about 8 a.m., and she was not picking her call. So later, at about 9, she called me back and I asked her, Mom, what are you doing? She said, I was praying for all of you. We are four. So she says this she goes from one child, she prays for all, every child has their individual issues. So you
Mhm.
pray for this one, or you think about that one, worry about them, then move to the next
Disciplined
one.
at that.
Then exactly.
Very disciplined.
Yeah, so she is a support for even my cousins. I have cousins who, when they have a tough time, they come home. They come home, they sit, they talk to her, she gives them advice, and it's very, very unbiased advice at all. She does not come across, by the way, as emotional. She might look very
Give me
um
an example. Give me an example. So, so she's very pragmatic about her wisdom.
yes, she's pragmatic. She's not mean or anything like that, but she'll tell you, what you're doing is very stupid and you need to stop doing that. And
Done.
um why are you uh, for example, let me see if I have an example from my I don't know if I can pull any specific examples as right now, but that's so okay. Let me give you an example of a time that my father was complaining a lot about milk.
Milk. Okay, this should be interesting. Milk.
Yeah, I just that will just give you a glimpse. I'm not saying she did the right thing, maybe not, but it will just give you a glimpse into really how she lives her life. So my dad spent around 10 minutes. I think we were about 17. I was 17. And he spent 10 minutes complaining that my mom was taking too much tea and buying too many packets of milk per day, according to his calculations. And, he went into budget. This is not wise, what. And, as your father is, lecturing you, so to speak, everybody is quiet. And he finished. And my mom stood up and she looked at him and then she asked him for money to go buy milk. Right after he had given his entire 20 minutes. And she was completely unfazed. Maybe it was not the right, but I don't know if I'm able to communicate the kind of
You did. She was not emotional
yes,
about what you said. Because most people get emotional when you tell them they can't do something or stop doing this or don't do that. They get emotional. And then whenever you get overly emotional, as we teach at norm therapy, you become anxious. And when you become anxious, that anxiety makes you make poor decisions. You
right.
then start to scream and holler and argue and all of those things because of the anxiety you experience from the emotions that you're allowing to occur as a result of what someone else has said or done to you. In this particular case, she went, "Oh, skip all of that." I don't think
Yeah,
I'll respond to that.
yeah, because she was preparing for breakfast for the next day, so she does actually need money for milk. So
And there you go. That's a great example. I really like that. And of course, you have this fatherly figure, this great
yes,
guy that
yes.
everybody wants to be like. So tell me about your dad.
Oh, my dad is a very friendly guy. He's a thinker. He does think quite a bit. He's also very stable. I think I value that in maybe the universe brings that to me. Um, for me, he's somebody that I've always wanted to how do you say when you want your father to be proud of you.
Hmm.
My mother to me is like my ride or die, my friend, but my father to me is somebody that I want to hear that
He's
he
foundational. Your father's
yes,
foundational.
yes, yeah. And he treats me with a lot of respect as well. He passes his ideas through me and we talk about it and discuss. So he is yeah,
Well, so you hold him in
maybe
high
you can
regard,
define
very
that.
high regard. No, and but having a father figure for a daughter, I think that's a very special relationship. I think a mother's daughter relationship, because I've witnessed my sisters with my mom when she was alive, but it's so special. Guys just never understand it. We just don't get it. We look
Right.
at it and go, I'm jealous, or I'm something, but I'm not clued in about what's going on there. But a father-daughter relationship is about protection. It's about feasibility of life. It's about standardizing and being a part of an image that is your father. It's nobody else's father in the world but you and your siblings' father.
Yeah.
And it's that special. But also more than anything else is a person of wisdom. You should be looking at your father as a person of wisdom, where your bastion of good behavior, your bastion of understanding, your bastions of wise thoughts and activity should stem from him insofar as the global understanding of family, the hierarchical structure within the family. So that's just one of those things. But
Yeah.
but what's your father's name? Is it Luis as well? I'm just wondering.
No. He's Richard Kibulo.
Richard, cool
Yes.
name. I like that, Richard.
Yeah,
Okay,
he is.
so King Richard is
I
actually
I
King
hear
Richard.
people call him Rich.
So Rich, okay. In the United States, they call Richard somebody else. You know that, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a very diminutive gesture. I think they called Richard in the United States Dick, but it's a
Ah, yeah.
diminutive. It's very it's a term of endearment more than anything
Mm.
else. But around the world, people go, "What did they say?" That kind of thing. But in the
Yeah.
U.S., it's very common and normal. So King Richard, I'll call him from now on.
Right.
Richard is like the head of the household. So balance you have in your family, and I'm talking about all this for a reason. Uh, One of the things I like to do in these interviews is showcase to the world the kind of people that we have, the families they come from, the things they've endured and they've seen and they understand, their educational background, the commonalities they have with life, people, the world, each other, and even victims and survivors of abuse in a lot of cases. But more importantly, to let them know that you're coming from a place, oftentimes, that they really don't know about you when they're sitting in a session. They want to know that you're stable or unstable, or forgive me, unstable. That's Spanish. Instability that versus okay, but um, they want to know that you're not unstable. They want to know that you're smart about the way you are and the way you do things. Well, how can they give their trust to you to help them through a circumstance if you don't know how to get through your own circumstances? And I think one of the special things about norm therapy is that. How do you feel about being able to self-disclose in norm therapy?
I think it's important because then you bring about a human aspect of it. If a survivor is telling you about something they've gone through, maybe about their father or about their mother, then you're able to share something that may be common.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you share, something common, maybe you both have children or maybe your cultural um,
What
back.
safety means, what situation awareness means. And
Yes,
a conversation about what I do when I get out of my car, I do this. And she may say, well, I do the same thing. And next thing
yes,
you know, or even a guy may say that to you, because we've had male patients. You work with me with different male patients. So you know that we all have the same types of anxieties and the same types of problems. Uh,
exactly. Yeah, so
so
it helps
go
them
ahead.
it helps them to bond better, to be able
Establish
to,
rapport. Yeah,
yes, 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 build rapport, and then that works well for them as well, for everybody concerned, because then we can get to the root cause of what the problems are. So it's a great thing.
I tell people often, and we know this for a fact because we are norm therapists, but to share with our audience that I tell people all the time that the most prevalent underlying factor to all abuse is fear. There's some element in fear in every kind of abuse. Like if you're a narcissist and you're beating down on somebody every day or someone every day, they fear you. They're intimidated by you. That's why they allow it to happen. People will only ever do to you what they think they can get away with. If they don't
Right.
think they can get away with it, people won't do it. They only do things to you that they believe truly they can get away with. And this particular, um, I guess, understanding permeates throughout all of abuse, whether you're being sexually abused, physically abused, you're being educationally abused, financially abused, narcissistically abused, gaslit. No matter what you're experiencing, you have been in a place of fear. And even the most courageous people fear something.
Right.
So what do you think about that? What do you think that how norm therapy approaches the fear factors in people to help them deal with their abuses? How do you think we've been successful doing that, if you don't mind?
Right. We do that through, first of all, identifying what the fear is, because then that's how we employ all these interviewing techniques that we have to try and get to understand uh, what the issue is, and then after that, we do empower our survivors, our BSs, with information on how they can overcome that. So
Absolutely.
if they have an underlying lack of self-confidence that exposes them maybe to certain types of abuse, then we're able to build them up. And once you build them up and you give them confidence, give them the tools of what they need to do to improve themselves, then they're able to slowly or quickly extricate themselves from the situations that they are facing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You kind of know me a lot because we've been in a lot of sessions together. We've been whoo, almost 100 sessions together, I think, or
Yeah.
more, different
Yeah.
patients around the world.
Right.
Tell me something. Um, what do you think people are doing when they're trying to uh, hurt themselves? What do you think they do most? What do you think they fear or misunderstand most about themselves when they're trying to hurt themselves or others around them? What do you think? What do you think drives them to that moment?
Mhm. One of the major things is that it is a cry for help, maybe subconscious or, mostly subconscious, but it is a cry for help. Or maybe they just don't understand. They don't know what else to do. So it's maybe an attention getting action, maybe not for attention, but definitely it is a sign that they are requesting help.
Yes, and that's that cry for help is normally in the form of I'm trying to be strong and I'm doing my best, but I just ran out of juice a little bit. I ran out of energy. I ran out of something that caused me to be at your doorstep. Um, and we find people like that all the time. You're a very stable human being. I think you mentioned stability several times in your conversations with me today about different people in your life.
Yeah.
And I hope the audience see that I'm assessing you from a long time back since you've been involved in our organization and in norm therapy and all of that. And I find you to be a very stable person as well. So that's not a coincidence that you are stable and they're stable. That's by design. And what people don't understand is that no one in life should be able to change you. The only person in life should be able to change you is you. And the only way a person will ever change, if you want them to change, is if you change yourself first.
Mm.
Because that takes the control and the power out of their hands to keep making changes in your life, and it puts it back into your hands. So once you change you, I think you said when your father said, and so okay, that's my end of my conversation about milk. Your mom said, okay, well, I need some money for milk because she said, I'm not changing. This is what I need. This is the reality of it. Whether it's skewed to you or not is irrelevant. What's needed is milk. Let's go back to the basic of our conversation. And maybe from his point of view, because he's the budgeter and because he's the watching the finances, he's watching the kids, he's measuring everything, which dads do, that he doesn't look at it from her perspective, like I'm still the mother and I'm not changing that at all. And I'm still the one that's going to go get the milk and add it into our food. And I'm still going to do all that. I'm using an example because that's a perfect example. So once a person figure out their role in their marriage, their business relationship, their profession, once they figure out their role and they're willing to play it to a great extent, I think it's a good thing that they're willing to play it to a great extent. It's a good thing that you are balanced there. But I want to show the audience that they can have that too. And it all starts with your mom by just saying, okay, I need some money for some milk. Stay you no matter what.
Yeah.
Be you. You don't have to get emotional. You don't have to respond emotionally or react or any of that. All you have to do is remain focused on point. And you made a great example today for our audience, and I do like that. So tell me, what are your hobbies, Louisa?
Hobbies.
Yeah.
Uh, I have been adopting some mindfulness techniques, a bit of meditation. I my hobbies are more along the lines of numerology and things like that. I don't even know if you can classify those as hobbies, but they do make me happy to read about and
I
study.
love numbers like you have no idea. I'm a nut about numerology and numbers, and I do. I have my certain sets that I live for and die for, and they have worked for me, and I'm still here. So apparently they're working for me. But
Hmm.
numerology is very important in the sequence of life. So what brought you to New because you're a scientist and numbers make sense?
Now, I think that was that was also a spiritual process of trying to understand who I am and why I am who I am.
The
Uh,
universe,
yes, to understand
transcendent,
person.
that transcendent person. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
right there with you. I am absolutely there. If you don't know who you are or where you're going, then you certainly don't know what you should have learned back then. A lot of people say that it's the sum of you now, live in the present, living in this, and all that's good. But in order to live in the present, you have to know who you are. And you only learn that from back here. You don't live in the past, but you have to know this part of your life and you have to experience this part of life. And you have to, here's the most important thing I think about all life is you have to look forward to something. Any human being on the planet that has nothing to look forward to is unhappy.
right.
That's all happiness is having something to look forward to. I'm gonna spend time with my kids. I'm gonna spend time with my dogs and cats. We're gonna run around. I'm gonna get that new car. I'm gonna go buy me that great pantsuit or for women a dress. On and on and on. Happiness is about having something to look forward to. I'll graduate this year and get my master's. I'll nothing to look forward to equals sadness, despair. And that's why people, I think, hurt themselves in these abusive circumstances because most people think that child abuse or domestic violence and all of these other abuses are the most prevalent abuse on the planet, but that's not true. The number one abuse on the planet is self-abuse. More people abuse themselves more often than anyone else could ever have abused them. We've seen a lot of cases of those in our time together interviewing patients. Louisa, oftentimes, I'll go into a meeting so the world will know. She's so good at norm therapy. She's very good. And she brings her personality and her line of questioning to it that I'm in a 1 hour session and Louisa comes in as the Overwatch. And I'll say, I'll talk for 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. And I'll say, okay, Louisa, you take over. And for the next hour, Louisa's sitting there. And sometimes at the end of the interview, because it's probably one of my patients, she'll say, and if Michael comes back in, he can finish this up. I caught you all the time do that. I come in when you finally say, yeah, and Michael should be showing up anytime soon.
Yeah, you should clarify what I'm saying.
I know, but you do a great job. I, uh, I want the world to know that if you become a norm therapist, so if you're a patient, you're going to be dealing with people who are dead serious about your problems, but they're also dead serious about you being happy, about your well-being, about the way you live. When a victim or survivor come to us, we don't just say, "Okay, let me counsel you." We want to know if you got a place to stay or you're eating today, your kid's going to be in school tomorrow. We want to know a lot of those things, and that's why we're marrying ourselves and networking with organizations now so we can have that extension for people. Because if you lose your home and you're outside with your kids and they don't have a place to stay, you're not looking for advice. You're looking for a place to stay and eat and protect your children. So we want to make sure that that's at the forefront of what we do as well with everyone. Uh, I'm going to see here. Are there any questions from the audience? I think I have a couple. Yeah, go ahead. I'd love to get those questions. You put them in my box over here. I'll read them off to Louisa. Okay. Okay. In Kenya, femicide and other abuse towards women and children is rampant. How can norm therapy help?
Norm therapy can help in terms of education and providing empowering. If, in fact, I would use the word empowering more than education.
That
Empowering,
mhm.
yeah,
Got you.
yes. Because then a lot of this happens due to the disempowerment, really, of women and of children in the society. It's majorly a patriarchal society and very authoritarian. Uh, of course, it has been improving over the years, so we cannot say that there's no improvement made. The authorities and due to education and everything, things are improving. But the cultural patriarchy is very entrenched. And
Mhm.
so empowering those who are facing the abuse is one way of and we do a lot of what we do is empowering. So if we are able to provide, they come to sessions and we can empower them and say, okay, so you're facing this, what are your circumstances? Then that would really, really improve the situation.
Guide us to a potential solution. That's a great answer.
Right.
People don't know that they have the authority to do things sometimes. They always waiting for somebody else to tell them what to do. And they find themselves victimized quite often because no one's ever told them that it's okay if you make a decision. It's okay that you are empowered and to amass your resources so you can move forward instead of backwards or into pain. I have
Yeah.
another question for you. Don't want to run out of time, but I want to ask you another question. Someone says, and I'm going to share this with you, they said, you have such a broad range of skill sets. What do you think is your most important lesson you've learned and applied to your personal and professional life?
Most important lesson. Discernment, wisdom. I'm just using the words that are popping up into my
That's okay.
head.
There you
Trying to truly understand what a situation is and to understand people. For example, if you're in a business environment, understanding what does the client actually want from this product or from my service, then if you're able to deliver that. In a norm therapy situation, understanding what the patient or the VS is actually undergoing and what is the cause of their problems. Even in terms of even my children, for example, understanding that they are two different, my children are two different people, understanding that everybody is an individual and they all need to be treated according to who they are. So I
absolutely.
think for me, yeah, that is the most important.
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you, Luisa. I have one more question for you. Then we got a few minutes. This is good. I have another question here. What makes you most passionate to help victims and survivors of abuse? How do you define norm therapy being different from traditional therapy? A two-part question. What makes you passionate about it? And what's the difference between norm therapy and, let's say, traditional psychotherapist or therapy?
Okay. Um, I would say that for me, being able to make a difference, because over my lifetime, I have wanted to be able to make a difference, like a legacy of sorts. And if you're not able to, be, say, the top billionaire in your country or something like that, and sometimes they don't even leave good legacies. So let me not even let me
Oh,
withdraw that example.
no, exactly. Money isn't
Yeah,
everything, that's for sure.
exactly. But being able to, when you sit and you talk to somebody, you're talking to a woman or a man who's facing abuse, and you're able to empower them, they are able to ensure their children are better taken care of, or their community. So then that leaves an actual tangible, maybe not so tangible, but it is a solid legacy of improving lives. So
And your imprint on that circumstance or that person and that situation.
exactly. Yeah, so that is something that has become more important to me as time has progressed.
And how is norm therapy different from traditional therapy?
Yeah, what is different about norm therapy for me is two things. Two things. The fact that we are able to share our life experiences, to what we term self-disclose. That builds rapport and really changes the therapy environment. Sometimes you can come into, if you are to peep into a session, you'd find you are laughing with a patient, or I am laughing with a patient, and we are trying to get back. And really also the interviewing process that we have really digs into and is able to cause people to actually figure out what is the root cause of their problems, you know.
And
For
then what to
example,
do about
exactly like the raking technique that you teach us,
it.
uh, is a beautiful tool in combing through people's memories and coming up with, things that they may not think were significant, but are really quite significant. Yeah.
Last question. And I'm going to do it a verbatim kind of question here. What piece of advice The wise Louisa. What piece of advice would you give to anyone that is struggling in an abusive relationship or environment?
Right. I would advise them to do a lot of introspection. Uh, Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to examine yourself and what you've gone through, because sometimes you don't want to remember or to think about, okay, so I was hurt last week. What is my role in that? Did I allow this person to hurt me? Did I, as you say, what you've taught us, that people do what they feel they can get away with. So why did this person feel that they can get away with what they did to me? And so in that sense, then you're like, okay, am I acting in a certain way that is, and why am I acting like that? It's not blaming the victim, just trying to understand what it is that you project and what is it that happened to you to make you project that. And then
Introspection.
exactly, yes. Then
Exactly.
once to figure that out, it takes a lot of time, and that's why we're in these sessions for, not one session or two sessions. But it's a very vital thing to do so that because then even in the future, you will not find yourself in similar circumstances. Because if you don't deal with the root problem, then, like women, maybe you meet the same man in five different ways.
Relationships. Exactly. That's oftentimes the case.
Right.
People have to find themselves through not only introspection, although that is paramount, but also they have to give themselves the same chance they would give someone else. They don't oftentimes do that. And so self-abuse come into place. Like I always tell people before they break up with somebody or terminate a relationship or get rid of a toxic person, or whatever they're going to do, preface it by exhausting every measure you can to stick around them, to be with them, to be that person you think you need to be, but also who they think you want to be or who they think you should be. Try to be all of that. And then after you've exhausted every measure, then you can actually leave that relationship or that circumstance because you've tried everything. But if you
Right.
don't exhaust every measure, because it could be you that's the trigger. It could be that person that's the trigger for the other person, and they're not seeing themselves. They're only seeing the abuser when they may, in fact, be an abuser themselves. Because if you're around enough narcissists, what are you going to pick up on?
And
Narcissists.
then, yes.
Exactly. And you're
Yeah.
going to become just like them and argue just like them and treat people just like narcissists treat people. So if you've been abused by many narcissists, you really need to look at yourself because right in their lives lies the secret to your clarity and us assessing it and then finding truth from that. Our core tenets, of course.
Yes.
I'm going to have to leave us. We have 2 minutes and I have a couple of things that announcement to make.
Sure.
Luisa, but don't go anywhere. But you're an amazing human being. I enjoy working with you. I think you come from a wonderful family and home life, and you always project an image of solidness and just pragmatism. But more important than anything, you're a friendly human being. And knowing now that you're a scientist, that you are very matter of fact about things and rigid, and you should be about your sciences. And I'm going to be utilizing you in a lot of other areas as well.
Sure.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your time with us today on the show, Louisa. I really
Yes.
do. People will be looking at this in posterity. Trust me. This is one of those interviews that I really enjoyed. So I want to go ahead and close us out with my little speech thing. Of course, if you got something out of today's session, please show your support by sharing this video, subscribing to our channel, liking it, and more importantly, make a comment. That's how we get that traction. Please go to goarrow.org and normtherapy.com to explore, of course, our opportunities to become norm therapists and to seek for yourself someone or some help for someone who's needing your or our services. If you're interested in applying to participate in any of our live sessions as a guest, like Luisa is today, please reach out to us at contact@normtherapy.com. Contact@normtherapy.com. And if you're a victim or survivor and you want to be a guest and tell your story, I'll be more than happy to talk with you on our show as well. This is Socialization of Abuse. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again on Sunday, April 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'll be interviewing Sarah Sudol, a content proofreader at Abuse Refuge.org. and she has a conversation talking about movies and their influences and talking about how media make people rather victimized and kind of correlate a lot of that for us. And I'm looking forward to that conversation. And I have my own theory about it, and I love it. So I think it's going to be a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Luis. You want to close us out with something?
Just to thank everybody for listening and join our social media platforms, listen to our content so that we can all participate in reducing abuse in our communities. Yeah,
Yeah. I really enjoyed you. Thank you very much, Luis. Say hello to your family and your
yes, I
kids.
will.
We didn't get a chance to talk to them about them much, but we'll get to them on one of our other sessions, okay?
No problem.
And I'll
All
talk
right.
to you soon. Bye now.
Okay. Goodbye.